Welcome to chapter 35 of Factual Recollections of a Pale Human Being Possessing an X and Y Chromosome. How are we going, guys? I think I've finally run out of ways to say memoirs of a white guy. Like, if you know another way to say memoirs of a white guy, those 5 words, I can't believe I had to count that out on my fingers. And thank God it was only 5 words, or else I would have had to get my other hand out of my pocket and start counting on the other finger. Man, I'm only good at counting shit to 10, because if I can't do it on my fingers, I'm fucked. Um, it's so embarrassing in public when, like, something's over 10 and I have to take off my shoes and count my toes as well. And everyone's just like, mate, get an abacus, all right? Carry around an abacus. Or you know what? I'll do you one better. Carry around a mobile phone with a calculator on it, or don't be a retard and learn how to count to 20. And I'm like, you know what? Fair game, random hypothetical stranger. Fair enough. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, I need more ways. So if you've got a way to say memoirs of a white guy that I haven't done yet, but please don't hesitate to message me or email me, because I'm really clutching at straws. I'm down to the bottom of the barrel of my synonyms of memoirs and white guy, and no, that's it. There's only 3 words in there that I need a synonym for. So anyway, if you have that, whatever. This is the intros always go for too long before I start talking about shit. I start getting involved in these random hypothetical scenarios in my head of me just trying to do basic arithmetic on my toes. And then the whole podcast just gets out of hand. Anyway, so this week has been a weird week. So on Wednesday night, I dropped the 3rd You Don't Own Me video, which I'm assuming most of you have seen, because the whole world saw it, apparently. And it went nuts. And I knew it would go big. Like I knew it would go probably even bigger than the first one, but I didn't expect it to go that big. Like, I was like, oh, this could get, 3 or 4 million views again on my page, maybe, if we're lucky. Ended up, I think it's on 7.5 million on my page. Got 30 million on Lad Bible, 10 million on Unilad. It got on the front page of Reddit without credit, by the way. That was bullshit. But you guys all messaged me this guy stole your video. I'm like, dude, about 50 people or probably 100 people have stolen this video, but thank you. It's actually crazy how many people did watch that video in about 3 days, because so many other pages are sharing it, and as I said, front page of Reddit, Unilad, Lab Bible, every single page, viral thread, The Hook, all these random European celebrities and personalities just posting on their page, because their pages aren't actually run by them. They just get other people to social media. So what happens is social media managers from all these big pages message me asking for permission, and I just say yes as long as they give me credit and stuff, because there's nothing you can really do to stop it. So you might as well might as well get the credit from it. So I said yes to them all, and I worked out, I reckon over 150 million people, probably well over, definitely 150 million people saw that video in 3 days, probably more, maybe close to 200 million, because it was hard to track on 9gag and other different websites, but and that's across Instagram and stuff as well. Actually, across Instagram, probably 200 million people saw that video. That's insane. I think last year, to give you some kind of perspective, 110 million people worldwide watched the Super Bowl. 110 million. And this got I'm not saying my shit's as good as the Super Bowl, but you can think that if you want. It's just crazy how many people laid eyes on that filth. That's hilarious. Look, here's the thing with these videos. I knew it was going to go that big. Well, not that big. I knew it was going to go pretty big, and I did do a version with a watermark on it that said @Kidgell at the bottom. But then it just kind of ruined, it triggered me watching it. When the thing pans really quickly between the signs and stuff, it just bothered me watching it that it had this watermark, and I felt like I was watching a Fortify video. And really, I just cracked it and got rid of the watermark. I knew it was going to get stolen a bunch, and I'd probably lose a couple of 1,000 followers or whatever, but I was like, I'd rather the video just be good to watch. And it worked, and it went really big on my page and stuff. I just didn't want to, I hate that shit of having to. It sucks that you have to put a watermark on your shit because you know it's gonna get ripped by like random pages, and I knew it would. But I've deleted the watermark, uploaded the original file without it. By the way, if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you're so confused, I do these videos, right? You probably would have seen it. If you go on my Facebook page, and you might have seen it anyway during the week on another page, but I ignore signs while that "You Don't Own Me" song plays in the background. And that apparently is worthy of viral content these days. Like, it's funny. Like, I admit, like, I get amused by it. Like, I got amused by the first one, and then the second one, I think I was a bit over the joke, and then this one, I kind of really committed to some of the signs, and I laid in a water fountain, and I did all this really stupid shit, ended up tracking down rollerblades. Shout out to Michael Jasper for the rollerblades. I put it out on my Snapchat, and then I ended up getting some. So that's why I needed rollerblades. I think people thought I was going to do like a whole rollerblading web series because I was in desperate need of rollerblades. No, just me wanting to ignore a sign that said no rollerblading. So yeah, my page ended up almost doubling in likes. I think it's over like 140,000 now. Pretty crazy. So thank you to everyone new, and I think there's going to be like heaps of new people listening to this podcast. So welcome. Firstly, but go catch up on the old podcast because you will not understand some of the in-jokes. Like if I said I saw a fat bird right now, and this is the first podcast you've listened to, you're not even going to find that funny. But trust me, there's about 1,000 other people just going, oh shit, here we go, everyone shut the fuck up. There's another fat bird story, but you wouldn't get that. So go catch up on all the in-jokes. Like right now, if I just dropped a fun fact and you're new to this podcast, you'd be like, that's just a bit offensive, Luke. But everyone else is going, nah, that's pretty fun. So maybe just go catch up on the old podcast, work your way through it slowly. And then, yeah, I'll see you back in like however long it takes you, a month to catch up on the podcast. And we'll be all back up to scratch and you'll be listening live every single Monday. So welcome to all the new people, but also welcome back to all the regulars. That's what I like doing. Some dude messaged me going, hey man, I've seen you've blown up all over the internet, you've gone viral. Does that mean you'll stop doing the podcast every week? No. Why would that mean? That just means more people will listen to this filth of a podcast. That's great for me. Do you know that this podcast is still in the iTunes charts every single week? Like, I don't know how or why or who even does the charts, but, it's because a lot of people listen to this shit. But go into the iTunes comedy charts and you'll see Memoirs of a White Guy just sitting there, usually in the top 100, just completely out of place because it's surrounded by like really big comedians and like radio shows, and like I'm beating like all these National Drive radio shows and stuff. And I'm just like, this is me yelling in my bedroom into a $200 microphone. And it's beating like radio shows with a budget of like $2 million, which sucks for them. That must be shit. And I just sit in my bedroom shitting on commercial radio, but also would not hate a job on radio. So if you're listening and you're in radio, hit me up, all right? I don't get paid for this shit, and it'd be great to not be almost homeless. I mean, people go, oh my God, bro, you're blowing up. Like your video, you must make so much money. You want to know how much money I made from that You Don't Own Me video? All right, get the number 1,000, right? And then scrub off the 1, and you've got 3 zeros. Put a decimal point after the first 0, and you'll read it, and it's got 0.00, and then put a $sign in front of the zeros, replacing the 1. I made fucking none. All right, so it's not all as glamorous as it seems. I'm way too honest on this podcast, aren't I? Like last week, I'm like, it was the week before. I'm like, I've sold jack shit tickets to Adelaide. Still sold jack shit. Oh wait, I need the megaphone announcement for this. So this is just the announcement about my Adelaide ticket sales for the You Don't Own Me National Tour coming up in about 3 to 4 weeks. Hit Sydney June 2nd. But this is just my Adelaide announcement. So everyone from Adelaide, listen up. I've got the megaphone. I've sold fuck all still. So if you guys want to just head down to that, that'd be great. So yeah, I don't really want to talk about the You Don't Owe Me thing. Someone told me to read this out. So someone said, "Hey, share this on your podcast." I forget who it was. I feel like I need a better screening process, like to get on my podcast. If someone goes, "Hey, put this on your podcast," I'm like, all right. They said, part 1. As soon as your You Don't Owe Me part 3 dropped, I watched it. A couple of hours later, I shared the post because I almost got caught on my phone at work. Anyway, about 10 minutes later, I'm just happily scrolling Facebook, looking at this meme of some store somewhere being out of cock. What are you looking at? I feel like that's not a meme, man. Anyway, I'm looking at this meme of some store being out of cock, and then I get this notification. My father, my dad, the man who put semen inside of my mother 9 months before I was born. Dude, we know how reproduction works, alright? I don't need your shitty definition. I also don't need to know what cock meme you're looking at when you got the text message. So much unnecessary information in this email, which is why I need a better screening process. Anyway, the man who put semen inside of my mother 9 months before I was born shared your You Don't Owe Me video. I looked at it for a minute, questioning why I helped him make a Facebook account and why I accepted his friend request. I questioned every single decision I've ever made in my life. I don't know whether or not it was sad. It only took about a minute, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Photos for proof it was your vid, and then they sent me a photo of the screenshot. I don't know why that's bad. Your dad just has a good taste in memes. That's all that is. I don't know why you're ashamed of your dad for also liking something that you liked. Like, that's if I was like listening to a song and then my dad came over and was like, "Oh, hey mate, I really like this song you're listening to." I'll be like, "Oh, what the fuck, dad? Why are you listening to this shit music?" Like, you can't turn around and like, well, anyway. Your dad has good taste in videos, in You Don't Owe Me content. Part 2, my question for the podcast is, when will you come back to Melbourne to perform stand-up? I missed the show and I've never been more devo. Have a good night/day/rest of the day from when you read this. Thanks, mate. Or girl. I don't know if it was a girl or boy. I forget. Anyway, I am coming back to Melbourne next year for the Comedy Festival with a brand new show, a brand new hour of stand-up that is going to be better than this year's. I mean, I haven't written it yet because I'm still doing this year's tour, but I'll be back next, I think it's April. So, yeah, come see me then. And don't be like, "Oh, I missed out." You had ample opportunity to see my show. Okay, I did 12. All right, so you clearly didn't like me that much. And then I started dropping fresh memes, and now you're regretting it. So anyway, we're not doing questions yet. Oh, I was about to start reading more questions. Yeah, so the You Don't Owe Me thing happened. So thank you so much to every single one. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Kind of sick of that shit. Actually, no, this is funny. All the comments, like, right, did anyone read some of the comments on, like, the Lad Bible thing? Even some of the comments of mine about all the old people getting freaking pissed off that I was, like, ignoring signs, but not, like, jokingly pissed off. Like, "You're a disgrace, your parents should be ashamed, you're gonna end up in jail." Like that sort of just hatred every single comment. Well, not every single one, just by old people. It's hilarious. Like, go read them. Like, it's a right old laugh. Here's a good one. Next time I'm at your home, I'm going to shit in your couch, spit in your carpet, fart in your mother's face, and play Guitar Hero at 3 a.m. when you're sleeping, and say, "Hey, Luke Kidgell, you don't owe me." 21 people like that. That's what makes me mad. Not the guy's comment. It's that 21 people went, "Fuck, that'd be pretty annoying." But my favorite part about all this is, like, literally, I honestly could not conjure up a dumber video than really the You Don't Owe Me series. But yet, it makes me so happy that it gets people actually triggered, that I'm ignoring these signs that, if you actually look at them, aren't illegal. They're either warnings or misdemeanors. Like the don't go in the water fountain one, or the water steps, or whatever it was. That's just a safety rule. That's just so people don't get wet. But it's like, if you're dumb enough to do it, then yeah, go for it. Like, that's what those rules are. But some people actually, okay, here's a good one. This is from Harry. It's this sort of idiotic behavior that starts off bigger issues. Way to encourage rule breaking, lad Bible. First off, ignoring signs, then it's jail. You bunch of fucking idiots. Now it's jail. That's the best, man. Oh, man. Imagine if you got locked up for making a shit meme. It's like, you're in maximum, there's like the bunch of, like, the rapists, murderers, and, like, people who've assaulted people, and I'm just in the corner like, hey, bro, what are you in for? And I'm like, oh, I made a dank meme. Do you know how much I would get fucked in prison? Being the dank meme guy? That'd be hilarious. Well, not being fucked, but, Look at this one. This person broke down all everything wrong with each individual sign that I broke. She said, signs are normally there for people's protection or to keep people from making anyone else's life harder. The don't put head underwater sign is normally there because of dangerous bacteria that you can get into your brain through your ears. Well, I'm not dead, so pretty useless sign. The dry yourself off before entering is so that no one slips and falls, potentially breaking bones. Many of these signs are there so there aren't accidents and so that maintenance staff doesn't need to be called out of odd hours. It's common courtesy to obey reasonable signs. When people do this shit, they're being selfish for a few likes on the internet. Oh, 100%. She absolutely nailed my motivation to do this video. 2 thumbs the way the fuck down for setting a shit example and for being an entitled ass. The only lady commenting bang on shit. Everyone else like, this is funny. It's not, man. I'm breaking the fucking law, alright? I'm being an entitled ass, and she's the only one who knows it. And then everyone just comments, I bet you're fun at parties. She probably is, alright? She's like Kesha, alright? The party don't start until she makes a shit comment on a video. Alright, so let's literally read one more shit comment I got. Oh, by the way, this is like 5 shit comments amongst, like, literally hundreds of thousands of good ones. It's not funny reading, someone tag their friend going, oh my god, this is so you. So this is just the ones that amuse me, which are obviously the negative ones, because it's hilarious. Alright, this is a great one. This one's more just like a dude not understanding how videos are made. He said, hey Luke, a nice one, but you should not, in capital letters, throw your plastic trash in the bushes. Just because it makes you a rebel, a real rebel would have chosen a wooden bucket. So he's referring to this bit in the video, if you haven't seen it. I ignore a sign, I pour sand on my head in a bucket, and then I throw the bucket away from me, and it just lands in a bush in the background. So that's what he's referring to. A real rebel would have chosen a wooden bucket, which he would have kept in use for the next generations during doing sand showering. And then he's just comment starts to not make sense. He just goes on about how me throwing the plastic bucket in the bush is it's not biodegradable, it's going to be there for the next 100 years or whatever. Okay, I don't even know what his name is. His name's John. John, I went and picked up the bucket, you dickhead. I actually didn't clean up the sand. No, I forget if I cleaned up the sand. We didn't clean up the water. That just dried. The one where I poured water on my head was actually rude. We're at the hotel in the Gold Coast, and we just bailed. And that was funny because when we were filming that, we'd almost got evicted the day before because Mike from North Borders, who's been on the podcast before, was flying a drone off the balcony, and our security guards came up to the room. We almost got kicked out. So we were it was the next day after we'd already been evicted, and then we were just literally walking around the hotel, blatantly being disrespectful and breaking the rules. And then, if someone comes up to you and says, hey, mate, why'd you do that? Honestly, I'd be just for no reason other than it's funny. Which is the best reason to do something. And it's usually the only reason why I do things. But anyway, those were really funny comments that I got. It just makes me happy. It almost makes it all is right in the world when I see there's some dickhead who just, he watched that video, the most innocent video ever of me just ignoring signs for a laugh, and they choose to write an essay. I got messages on my page. I just get inundated now with messages every single day. So if you message me and I didn't get to reply, I'm really sorry. I do get fucking heaps. But But yeah, all these people send me like essays about like law breaking and how many people go to jail for this. And the most common one I get is, you should do this shit in Singapore. And that's because Singapore have quite strict laws. Like, you can get fined $10,000 for littering in public in Singapore. Everyone's like, do this in Singapore, man. Do it in Singapore. They own you, bro. They own you. I'm like, yeah, no shit. It's Singapore. That's why I didn't film any of this shit in Singapore. Like, who the fuck would be dumb enough to go... Like, that's like going to North Korea and being like, oh, Kim Jong-un, I'm just going to pour this bucket of water over my head, then give you the finger while wearing speed dealers. You get beheaded for that shit overseas, which is why I filmed it in Australia, right? Because, honestly, here, we're allowed to do pretty much whatever, and it's great. But yeah, all these people going, do it in Singapore, bro, you're not that tough. I think you missed the point of the video. The point of the video is, I'm actually not that tough. I didn't safely eject a USB. And that's the joke. Oh, man. It's great. I love it. Like, you guys get it. Like, all the people who actually follow my shit and all the people who aren't over 50 get it. Like, it's hilarious. Anyway, I need to stop talking about this. It's been way too long in the podcast. It's been 20 minutes. I don't know. Have I been talking about You Don't Own Me for 20 minutes? Anyway, this is a big... I actually have a lot of shit to talk about this week, so I'm going to move on. Let's do the fun fact, alright? It's time for the fun fact. If you're new to this podcast, the fun fact is, as I was saying before, just... You're not going to understand it, but if I can give some kind of description of what it is, it's pretty much the best part of definitely everyone's week who listens to this podcast. That's just... That goes without saying, but it's probably even like when I even started introducing this segment, it probably made your year better. I would say maybe even your decade. Let's go as far as saying that. It's pretty much, how fun is it? Okay, has anyone ever been to a funeral? Right? If everyone knows, even a family member's funeral, like a gran or something like that, if you've ever been to kind of that sort of level of occasion, of something that fun, you know, you'd almost begin to understand almost how much enjoyment we get out of this fact. But maybe if you've hung out at a morgue all day, or like, I remember once during high school, I was doing legal studies and they took us on an excursion to a prison and we met prisoners and stuff, and they were almost having, like, they were in there for life. Some of them were in there for fraud, murder, and it was... This is actually not a joke, this bit, but yeah, we met all these like murderers because it was in like year 11 and 12, so they take you to a prison, and I think it was Barwon Prison in Victoria, and yeah, it was pretty much they were having the same amount of fun that kind of we all get to have every single week, but I was so jealous. Those people get to do it every single day, so that's kind of how much fun we're about to have. All right, so. Pretty much, if you're new to this, you guys, the listeners, send in your fun facts to me. And really, my job's easy now. I just read out and I just get to have fun. Usually, I used to provide some of the fun facts, but not anymore. So, pretty much what we're doing these days is I usually only read out one fun fact. Because I get inundated with so many fun facts, I have started, this week we're starting an honourable mention fun fact category. So, the first honourable mention... is from Zach. Now, I cannot stress enough, this is not the fun fact of the week. These ones are not the fun fact. I will inform you when I get to the fun fact, okay? So, these are just honorable mentions, and then we'll really start kicking up the fun. All right, so Zach said, shy crabs produce the most sperm. That's not very fun. He also sent in, when Eskimo babies have colds, their mothers suck snot out of their nose. So that's a pretty, it's an honourable mention. That's a pretty fun fact. Here's a one from someone on Snapchat. I forget who it was from. Hey Luke, here's a fun fact for the podcast. Half of the people to have ever died from malaria. I hope you don't overdose on fun after reading that. Now the reason why this one, because that's incredibly fun, I think we'd all agree, that is a great fact. That almost was the fun fact of the week, but I just don't think that's a fact. There's no way half the people to have ever died have died from malaria. Think about the plague who wiped out these people. Think about cancer. There's wars. Like, I just don't think that's a fact, man. Look, if someone can prove that, I couldn't even be bothered to Google it, but I just assume that's not actually a fact. But it's still very fun. You can't deny that. I just don't think it's a fun fact. And this is the last honourable mention for this week. I forget who sent this one in, but it's British spies used semen as invisible ink during World War One. The method, and you're thinking, oh, look, that wasn't that fun. Hang on, here's where it gets funner. The method was invented by Sir Mansfield Cumming. Sir Mansfield Cumming and semen. That's fun. That's funny. Oh, my phone's ringing. Can you guys hear that in the podcast? My home phone is ringing. Who still has a home phone? Like, no one picks that shit up. I haven't even moved. It's still ringing. I'm just going to honestly let this shit ring out. And a professional podcast... Oh, now the answering machine's going off. They didn't leave a message, which means it was just a telemarketer. Or my granddad has forgotten how to leave a message. Either way. Anyway, point is, a professional podcast would have cut that out of the podcast. That you would have never have heard that on some kind of professional podcast, but this isn't any podcast, all right? You're going to hear my home phone ringing in the background. And if you couldn't hear that in the background then, I'm sorry I talked about it for 30 seconds. It was quite loud. All right. So that's all the honourable mentions for the fun fact. Oh, I need to start kind of building up. Everyone, stand up and just jog on the spot for 10. Do 10 star jumps. I don't know. Do something to get you pumped up. I'm kind of just stretching right now. All right. I'm ready for the fun fact. Get ready to sound the fun horn, by the way. Oh, maybe you guys could get your own horns ready now for this segment and Snapchat me. That's what you can do. Send me messages of you doing your own fun fact horn after you hear the fun fact on Snapchat. So I'll just leave a pause this week. And you guys, this week is an incredibly fun week. You guys can insert your own fun horn. All right, get ready. Get a horn ready. Pause the podcast right now. Get a fun horn. And then I'm going to go straight into the fun fact. And send me videos of you guys horning it up after the fact. This is so exciting. This is interactive podcasting. We've reached a new level this week of shit joke. All right, this is the fun fact of the week. If you're a man and you pee on a pregnancy test and it's positive, you probably have cancer. So that's a pretty fun fact, which means only one thing. Sound your own fun fact horn. My one was a vocal horn because I couldn't be bothered to get my own horn. I don't think I own a horn. Do I? No. It'd be good if someone got one of those like Viking, I don't know what they're called. They're like a bone. They go from the top of a mountain. Someone send me doing that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that fun fact. Man, I'm worried that we've all overdosed. We've OD'd on fun this week. Now let's just try and bring it back. And I know the rest of the podcast won't be as good, won't be as fun. But let's just try and have fun because I've still got heaps of shit I want to talk about. All right. So this week, actually, no, let's do this first. Oh, no, we're going to do this. So I met my idols during the week, which sounds so weird. So usually I don't freak out over pretty much any celebrity. I don't think I've ever gotten nervous. I've met pretty much everyone in comedy, like all these people on TV. I do gigs with them and stuff. It's just like, you just have a cool job. But since I was about, I reckon, 10, I've been listening and watching everything Hamish and Andy have ever done. And they are pretty much my biggest idols on the face of the planet, which sounds so weird because they live in Melbourne and stuff. Like I know they're two normal guys, but they're pretty much the first comedy I ever really heard and ever really loved. I loved them before I even realized I loved comedy because I kind of didn't even realize what they were doing until I thought about it. Like I just used to go, these guys are funny and I love everything they do and I will forever watch anything they post and put up. So essentially, like, I've never missed a Hamish and Andy podcast since 2010. I think I've listened to every single radio show they've done since about 2010, and I've also gone and caught up on all those 2008 ones. So I've pretty much listened to every single radio show they've ever done. So I'm like a hardcore fan, right? And I'm not really a hardcore fan of anything. That's probably one of the only things I'm a hardcore fan of. And since I've kind of got into this industry of comedy and stuff, I've almost met all the people I look up to, but I'd never met Hamish and Andy before. And those are really the only two people I wanted to meet. And finally, I was lucky enough to meet them, which was really cool. And the story does get better than this. So I was like pretty much geeking out because I'm a nerd. But like, I usually just don't think anyone from Australia is just worth being a fan, like not being a fan of. Like I'm a fan of a lot of people, but like worth shaking over. Like just because like we don't really have celebrities. Like I'd probably get pretty nervous around Hugh Jackman, maybe, or like maybe the Hemsworth brothers, like they're pretty famous. Like that's pretty much the only famous Australians. Maybe Kylie Minogue. Not Danny. Danny, I wouldn't get nervous over Danny. Probably not even Kylie, because I'm just not a big fan of her music. But I just feel like I don't froth any Australian celebrities. And I was almost surprised at how much I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. So anyway, me and my mate went to one of Hamish and Andy's live shows. I didn't go there to meet them or anything. I just went there just because I've always been a fan of them. And we were at their show, and they did this show where they crowd surfed for 2 hours on top of an audience. We were just part of the audience or whatever. And it was really funny. It was a really good show. And then afterwards, they kind of quickly met everyone. And this is, I don't know if this story is like braggy or not. It's not that braggy. No, it's, okay, this is going to come off as like braggy, but it's not. It's more me kind of freaking out. All right, this is not, and I'm not telling this in an arrogant way. I'm just telling this is the best moment of my life way, because it was the best moment of my life. And I felt like I needed to share it on the podcast. Like pretty much it was better than the first time I saw the Fat Bird and then the Drunk Bird combined. So that kind of gives you some level of how good this moment was. So after their radio show, they kind of came back and were meeting everyone in the audience, and I got a photo with him or whatever, and just quickly, and that's the one I posted on Instagram. But then that's not where the story ends. I was already like, oh my god, this is cool, I get a photo with them, but I didn't really speak to them really at all because I was still a big line. And I actually, well, I don't know, but I've been in contact with Cackling Jack in the past. Their kind of third guy. He's like the guy who pushes the buttons, and he's like kind of the producer of their radio show. Oh, by the way, if you're from overseas, Hamish and Andy, I should have explained this at the start. Hamish and Andy are like the biggest radio show in Australia. They're like drive time. Anyway, they're like number one on iTunes in the podcast. Whatever. So I have met Cackling Jack before, and I was kind of speaking to him over in the corner, and he was like, I remember, because I used to do radio, community radio, and I'd met him through that. Anyway, we were speaking about that, and he was like, oh, you're still doing the radio and stuff? And I was like, no, I actually just do stand-up now, and I do a podcast every week. And he's like, oh, what's the podcast called? I was like, oh, Memoirs of a White Guy. And he's like, oh, I've seen that on the iTunes. Anyway, so he was like, wait, are you Luke Kidgell? And I was like, yeah. And then he goes, holy shit, we were all watching your video this morning, the You Don't Owe Me one. And I was like, oh, cool. And then, so he kind of started freaking out about that. And then he ended up getting a photo with me, and I was about to get a photo with him. So we both got a photo with each other, which was super weird. And then this other dude who knew my video got a photo with both of us at the same time. Me and Kay. It was super weird. Anyway, so we kind of were chatting for a bit. Then he goes, oh, you should go speak to Hamish once he finishes. He absolutely loved the video. And I was like, oh, I don't know, I don't want to like piss him off. Like, he's like my idol since I was 10. And you know, you don't want to meet your idol and get underwhelmed and stuff. And I was like, yeah, okay. So I waited around for another 5 minutes, and then they were done. I was like to Hamish, because he kind of came over to us, and I was like, hey, did you watch that video of the guy ignoring signs this morning? And he went, oh yeah, I fucking loved it. And then he just kind of looked at me like, why did you ask me that? Then he's like, oh wait, you're the guy. And I was like, yeah. And then it was the best moment of my entire life. And this is, again, it sounds like I'm just bragging about being recognized. I don't know why I'm talking about this on the podcast. Anyway, he ended up filming a You Don't Owe Me with me. Hamish Blake ended up filming a You Don't Owe Me with me quickly on my Snapchat, which was really cool to him. So massive shout out to Hamish. It was probably the best moment of my life. I don't know why I felt the need to share that. He just had seen the video, and I was like, I've got to utilize this. So I was like, do you want to film it on my Snapchat? And he was like, oh yeah. So they were really cool about it. They stuck around and filmed this shit with me. I didn't put it up my page or anything just because it was poorly filmed and stuff, but you might have seen it on my Snapchat or my Instagram story. Anyway, that was the best moment of my life that happened this week. And it was the coolest shit, just like meeting someone who really I've looked up to and not aspired to be, but like just I've really looked up to them, and they were incredibly nice to me. And that kind of makes me want to, it's great because some people come to my shows and it's the first stand-up show they've ever seen, and I always take the time to speak to them and stuff afterwards. And I'm not trying to say I'm like nearly as big as Hamish and Andy or whatever. I'm just saying, like, I think it's great when people still have time for their fans one-on-one, even when you're at that level of big. They stuck around and met pretty much everyone who came to their live show, and I think that's the coolest shit. So I'm definitely going to try, and for at least as long as I can, meet every single person after every show. Obviously this year it's very achievable because I'm not doing huge theaters or anything. So yeah, this year I meet everyone who comes after the shows and stuff, and I just thought that was really cool that they were still doing it. Like, they've been doing it for 10, 15 years. They've got millions of fans across Australia, and they were still like just getting photos with people, and I was like, that's cool shit, man. And that's the great thing about Australia, is everyone is so down to earth in the industry, and they were nice enough to film the stupid meme with me. And they didn't know, really, that I was that much of a fan of them. They were probably just like, oh, this dude came out to one of our shows. That's cool. But I was super freaking out. Anyway, that was a long story. I apologize, but that's was the coolest shit to ever happen. It was very cool meeting someone who I'd looked up to for that long. So thank you to both Hamish and Andy and Cackling Jack, or Jack Post, as he's known. So yeah, okay, this is what I really want to talk about on this week's podcast. Let's move on from that. All right, I've talked about what I've done this week. Here's the problem with the podcast. I felt like the podcast hasn't been as good recently, and I worked out why. I was like, I haven't had the same kind of energy going into every single podcast. And I worked out it's because I've been genuinely so happy with my life over the last month. I've been touring, doing what I love. I've been doing the comedy festival, and nothing's pissed me off. Absolutely nothing. I think I told a story a couple of weeks ago of juice falling out of my cup, because that's how good my life was at the time. Like, I didn't even have white people problems for a month. Like a whole month where nothing really bothered me. But but now that I'm back and not touring, I've had 3 weeks off, I'm fucking angry again. So the podcast is about to get... People are like, you never do rants anymore on the podcast. Oh, trust me. Don't I? Because I'm about to. Because I got fucking... Oh. Okay, so I went out to a nightclub on the weekend. And I know I've ranted about nightclubs before, but this one was even shitter than the last one. And it was in Melbourne. And the only reason why I ever go to nightclubs... Like, I don't mind going to bars and just chatting to mates and stuff and having a drink or something. But nightclubs are just like where your hopes and dreams and aspirations go to die. Like, the only reason why I went is because it was a friend's 21st, and she was having her birthday there, and, you're a shit mate if you don't rock up. So I rocked up. It was this nightclub called Yo-Yo, which already made me fucking angry before I walked in. What the hell? You don't name your nightclub after a kid's toy and a biscuit. Okay, it's not a cake store, it's a nightclub. So I went in there, paid $17 entry. I honestly would have been happier to pay $20 entry. But because I was on some stupid guest list, and it was like, oh, you're on a list, you get cheaper entry. Instead of $20, it was $17. I was like, I don't want your fucking change. It makes my wallet heavier, and it's also insulting that you think I need that $3. I mean, I do. I'm a struggling comedian, but you don't know that. All right, you don't know that about me, and stop flicking me change like, oh, I went on cheaper entry, whatever. So I was pissed off already. And then there was a packet of, like, a box of Mentoses on the counter, and it said, please take one only. So I grabbed 2, because fuck it, you don't own me, bitch. I'm the mean guy. And I grabbed 2, and she's like, hey, it says one only. I literally just looked her dead in the eye, and then just continued to walk away. I was like, yeah, I'm being a dick. I don't care. And I walked up like 8 flights of stairs. It was on the top of a fucking skyscraper, apparently. There's no lift. I'm like, so I just had to walk up all these stairs, and all these drunk people were trying to walk up. I'm like, I wasn't drunk. I only had a couple of beers or whatever. So I was just angrily walking up flights and flights of stairs, and all my friends like, oh my god, it's going to be so good. No, it's not going to be so good, because we're only halfway up to the nightclub, and my calves are already hurting. Alright, so we eventually get up to the top, and it's just, you know, like pretty much Melbourne nightclubs are where, it's like the Gold Coast. It's like, remember I was ranting about the Gold Coast a few weeks ago? It was like the Gold Coast in a room. It was where all the worst people from every corner of every suburb of Melbourne just congregate and all just start licking each other's faces. And I was just standing there watching this happening, and apparently I left my bandana at home and my Nike Air Maxes, so I didn't really fit in, and everyone was just, this is my first impression of the nightclub, right? When I walked in, there's this fucking enormous fat chick. That's not the problem I had with her. Just dancing up against the wall. Like, she's just using this, like, kind of pole/wall area as, like, a support beam for a shitty fucking grinding. She's grinding it, like, rubbing her back up and down this wall while also trying to grind this dude in front of her. And she just looked like a fucking grizzly bear. And she's just, like, it looked like she's just come out of hibernation, and the first thing she's gone, like, she's had a bit of salmon and then gone, let's hit the club. And I was like, dude, this isn't Alaska, alright? I don't know where they have bears, alright? My bear references aren't that good in this podcast. That's not my point. You look, that was my first impression. And I was like, how is this night going to improve from there? This can only get worse. And then I keep on walking around, went to the bar, ordered a drink, $11 for a Corona, and this is the real kicker, they didn't put a fucking lemon in it. $11 for a non-lemon/lime Corona. That should be illegal, okay? That's theft. That's genuine cat burglary. That's just taking money out of my hand and giving me a glass full of shit Mexican beer that only gets improved by a lemon, okay? And I asked her, I said, can I get a lemon? And she just started serving this other douchebag next to me. And all the dudes, like, walking around the club. For once, I actually felt like a minority. I can truly understand what it feels like to be a minority. And I'm not even talking race. I was actually a bit of a minority. There was pretty much only, like, Lebanese, African American, or, like, Asian people there. And I was literally a minority race. But I'm not even talking, like a minority race-wise. I was just like, I felt like for once like I wasn't a douchebag. Like usually I'm like, yeah, I'm a bit of a douche, you know, I just make stupid videos on the internet, do a bit of comedy, classic Luke. No, these were douchebags, right? Like every dude in the club was wearing a cap and then had a hood over the cap. Dude, you're indoors and it's nighttime and you're wearing 2 layers of head protection. That is the fuckwit combo right there. And then one dude, I shit you not, was just like, he had I can't even describe this. Most dudes were wearing 2, like just the cap and the hood. And then this other dude had a bandana under his cap, a cap on top of the bandana, then a white shitty hoodie over the top. 3 layers of head protection. The fuckwit multiplier, okay? He was like, oh my god, a triple kill. I couldn't believe this shit. And then he walked over to a reflection and I was like, oh, he doesn't realize his hood's on. No one's that much of a dickhead. No, he was. He walked over the reflection, fixed his hood, and then blew a kiss to himself in the reflection, then walked away. What? I was like, I honestly was like, did that just happen? Is anyone so vain enough to wear 3 layers of headwear indoors at night time and then blow themselves a kiss while doing it? Apparently so. Holy shit. You don't even know how angry I was. It was this R&B club, right? And there was like, so it only plays hip-hop music. But there was a DJ still. Like, imagine if I was like, hey, what do you do for a living? I'm a hip-hop DJ. And then the DJ, I noticed, when like ever he'd like do a drop, or like wherever he'd drop some, he was dropping Justin Bieber, which is not hip-hop, by the way, but he'd start dropping Biebs, which was the only good thing he was playing all night, and he'd Snapchat it, like the people dancing to it. And then I was like, wait, you're Snapchatting, which means there's some people in the world who follow hip-hop DJs on Snapchat. What, like, how is that contributing to your day in a positive way? Like following a hip hop DJ. I couldn't think of anything worse. You go on Snapchat and you're watching like all your friends, and then you might scroll past me like, oh, Luke's just fucking plugging his show again. Fuck that. You skip past that and you go. Then this hip hop DJ comes up, and then you just see some guy in the background look at himself in a reflection, wearing a bandana, a cap, and a hood, blow himself a kiss, and then you continue to follow him. That's an unfollow straight away. I was just like, dude, no one follows you on Snapchat, mate. You're a hip-hop DJ. And the thing that made me angry was pretty much everyone else was loving it. Like, I was the only one hating it. The only ones hating it as much as me were the bouncers. Like, there was one dude who was just like 30, and you can tell he had kids, and he was just like, I'm never letting them out of the house. And that's a good call, because it was just trash. And then I saw a bride-to-be, like a hen's night, at this club. Like, you're celebrating your engagement at this shit club, and she was dancing to Drake with a fucking neon flashing veil. Just, oh my god, like some like, how do you end up being there? Like, your douchebag boyfriend like got down on one knee, but you couldn't see his face because he was wearing a bandana and a cap and a hood, and then he just pulls out like a burger ring and then she's like, let's go celebrate on a sticky floor. Oh my god, fuck your life. Like, that's, and like all my friends were just standing around in a circle dancing politely because like we were there for someone else's birthday, but I could tell some of them were kind of hating it. But I was the only one rude enough to properly vent my frustrations on the night. And another thing that I noticed was all these dudes were wearing exactly the same t-shirt. Heaps of guys were wearing this same basic shirt. It was just a white shirt with black horizontal stripes on it. They were all dressed like gondola drivers. So like, it's apparently that's some fad now to wear a stripy shirt. But every dude was dressed the same at this club, and they were all like pretending like they were like two different friendship groups often had two people wearing the same shirt, and then we're dancing opposite another friendship group with also two dudes wearing this same shitty gondola shirt. And they were all dancing kind of back to back. And if you had to see my Snapchat story, I was just filming them going between them. And they were just pretending like it wasn't happening. I'm like, you're all wearing the same shirt. You all went to JJ's and Cotton on the same day and went, let's purchase the most basic shirt in the most basic store on the planet. And then you did that, and you all decided to wear it to the one shitty club named after a fucking biscuit. And that's where your day ended up. On Saturday. Holy shit. I'm like, honestly, never going back there, but obviously, like, every time I go to a club, it's only to be nice to my friends. I don't know why I go. I usually just try not to go because I just hate it so much. Like, paying entry to hate yourself. What's that? Like, if like, suicide's free. I don't want to pay money to be tortured. I can do that shit for free in my room. Just give me a knife and a rope. Like, are you serious? I don't need you to do it with an $11 Corona and a bunch of dudes wearing the same basic ass shirt. I can hate myself in other ways. Alright? Just give me an Adam Sandler film and I'll fucking neck myself. Oh man. Remember when this podcast used to be all cutesy and I didn't used to get angry at things? I used to be like, oh, The Bachelor's on this week. And then I used to talk about The Bachelor and go, oh, those girls are so silly. And then, what has this podcast become? But it's only gotten bigger. Like, so many more people listen to it now that it's just angry. People just like hearing white boy vent about white boy problems. Like, is that what you tell your friends? Like, when you recommend this podcast to them? Like, heaps of people go, hey man, I've got all my mates listening to your podcast now. And I'm like, what did you say? Like, when you're like, oh, it's just this white guy and he just yells about white guy shit. It's quite obnoxious, really, but I think you'll like it. It's almost insulting. If you've got this podcast recommended to you by a friend, it means they think you're as shit a person as me. Like, it means they'll think your standards of comedy are so low that you'll enjoy listening to this. But anyway, that's my podcast. That's my rant for this podcast. It's almost the end of the podcast. I've been on for 47 minutes. I had other shit to talk about, but those are the main things. I hope you guys enjoy the podcast. I'll talk about the other stuff next week. Actually, I'll answer one question while I'm here, and then we'll go. So one question this week, sorry, but I've just run out of time. I got too angry, and when I get angry, I tend to shit on a lot. So I gotta get calm now. I'm gonna answer this question angrily. This is from Alaska. Okay. When I say that, I meant the girl's name is Alaska. I'm assuming it's a girl. Anyway, the person's name is Alaska. It's not from the country Alaska. Hey Luke, love your comedy so much. Thanks for always making me laugh. You're welcome, Alaska. I feel like I'm making a whole nation laugh. My name is Alaska Kalamekis. I don't know why he gave me a full name. Everyone look her up on Facebook. First off, Brooklyn Nine-Nine is literally the best show ever, and you should talk about it more on the podcast. Did I talk about Brooklyn Nine-Nine? I don't remember talking about Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I watched that. Maybe I talked about it with Emily. Me and Emily, that's the show we're watching at the moment. Because usually as couples, you watch like one show at a time. Like we were watching The Office before this. And then I stopped watching The Office at the last season when it gets shit. I watched half of it and I just couldn't finish it. And I think Emily finished watching it and then she just told me what happened. And I was like, yep, glad I didn't watch that. I missed absolutely nothing. But that's what everyone, it's funny, during the week, everyone keeps telling me, like, dude, do more You Don't Owe Me videos, do more You Don't Owe Me videos. And I just reply with, yeah, I don't want to go out like The Office. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to run a joke till it's completely dead. And that's what they did. Steve Carell left at the right time. And that's what I'm going to do with the You Don't Owe Me videos. You're going to leave on a high. And I've got a couple more ideas planned for the You Don't Owe Me franchise, but they're not going to go viral because they're just for the people who like my shit. Like, they're just for you guys. I've got one more You Don't Owe Me-ish video, I think, coming. I may not even do it, but I'll probably do it after the tour to just wrap up the tour. But it's not supposed to go viral. I'm done with that. Like, I want to move on to the next joke. And I think some people, dude, that's what we like. Everyone's here for You Don't Owe Me videos. Well, fuck off then. Like, I'm a comedian, and if that's what you're listening to this for, there's not going to be another one. So enjoy the 3 that you got. But honestly, the 4th time I do it, you'll all be like, you'll all think you'll want it, and then if I do it again, you'll be like, yeah, it's just not that funny anymore. I'd rather end on a high, you know what I mean? Anyway, I'm going to keep reading her question. Talk about Brooklyn Nine-Nine more. I will try and reference Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I won't. Anyway, I have 2 questions for you. 1, what's your favourite Zooper Dooper flavour? And 2, who are some of your favourite bands? Favourite Zooper Dooper flavour? From memory, Fairy Floss is good. You can't beat a cola. And I quite liked the green flavour, the lime one. Oh, what was it called? Space Lime? I'm going to look up Zooper Dooper flavours so I can give you the proper answer. Zooper Dooper flavours. If you don't know what Zooper Doopers are, they're those the icy pole thingies. Anyway, everyone knows what a Zooper Dooper is. Look at this, BuzzFeed, the definitive ranking of Zooper Dooper flavors. Who are you, BuzzFeed, to tell me what Zooper Dooper flavors I like? Okay, Deep Space Lime. Okay, they were bang on. That is what I like. They've ranked that as number 8. I like lime, which is weird because like I don't actually like green flavor and anything else. I just somehow remember it being good. Or maybe it was shit. I haven't had Zooper Doofers for ages, I'll be honest. I don't like the blue one. Bubblegum is always average, I think, as a flavor. I like cola. Pineapple, no good. Fairy Floss is bang on. And Raspberry Rocket. So, Fairy Floss Force Field is my favorite, I think. Then I'll go with Cola. I think it's just called, it's called Cola Cosmos, obviously. Cosmos. I don't like bubblegum. Orange is pretty good. Pretty much, I'm a basic bitch. Everyone knows that, man. I'm like the most basic person. So pretty much the basic flavors of Zooper Doopers. I feel like I've given your Zooper Dooper question way too much attention. I feel like it should have been a one-word answer and I should have moved on. The second question was, who are some of your favorite bands? I fucking love Green Day and Blink-182 as well. And I was just wondering if you had any other bands. Anyway, keep up the good work. Love the podcast. I feel like I've been fairly anti-Green Day on this podcast. Like, I do quite enjoy Green Day, but I'm thinking from memory I've been anti-Green Day on this podcast. Because it was like a thing in the 90s where you had to choose between Green Day and Blink-182. like, because they were like both three-piece pop punk bands in the same era. And I definitely chose Blink-182 because they're way more fun and not as political and stuff, but I do still enjoy both. Green Day came to Melbourne like this weekend, and I didn't go just because I'm not really a huge fan of them. I have their CDs and stuff, but I haven't really listened to their new stuff as much as I probably should have. But anyway, I'm just a bit over that shit, to be honest. Who else do I like? I'm loving at the moment, I listen to everything. At the moment, I'm loving Amy Shark. She's an Australian artist. She came second in the Triple J Hottest 100 with her song "Adore You." She's doing like the Australian festivals at the moment. I think she's going to be doing a North American tour as well. So I really like her. I kind of like weird stuff, but I'm also into pop music as well. It's so weird. Like I really enjoy like some female artists sing it. Like I don't know how to pronounce her name. Like, is it Halsey or the one who sings that Chainsmokers song? But I like her other song. That song's not that great. But I don't know, Halsey or whatever her name is. I like that. Bands I'm liking at the moment. What bands am I liking? I've been listening to the Smith Street Band a fair bit lately. Been listening to Neck Deep. Like, still a lot of pop punk. What else? I don't know. Just shit. Like, no one likes the music I'm into. I've been listening to a bit of Oz rap still, like Cursor. But yeah, just like I just listen to weird shit that honestly no one else likes, and that I don't really talk about what music I listen to because everyone just gives me shit, and I don't blame everyone for giving me shit. I have a debatable taste in music, but I just listen to like everything. I listen to some things people go, I really like that. Then I tell them another artist I like, and they're like, oh, you're a weirdo. And like half the shit I like as well, people haven't even heard of. Like, I could reel off like 10 underground pop punk bands that no one really knows. Like, I've been listening to State Champs a fair bit recently, and like just shit like that where people like there's just you don't know them. So I'm not really going to talk about it. There'll be like 2 people who know what the fuck I'm talking about. But anyway, that's what I've been listening to. Thank you for your question, Alaska. God, you have a cool name. Alaska, that's the shit. Anyway, that's the end of the podcast. So thanks everyone for listening. Thanks so much to everyone for getting around that video during the week, because I know for a fact that it starts with all you guys who get on it first and actually start sharing all the videos around. It starts with the core group of people every time, and those are the people who listen to this podcast. So I can genuinely not thank you enough for always sharing my videos and shit. I've got heaps of big stuff on the way. I'm really going to try and pick up YouTube this year. I was going to talk about on the podcast, I've ordered new equipment. I've got a new camera coming. I spent like $2,000 on a new camera. I spent like another $1,000 on accessories and other equipment for it. So I don't know why I did it. I can't afford it. I mean, but thank you so much to everyone who came to a Melbourne show. It means I can barely afford something that isn't a potato anymore to film on. So you literally, the people who come to the shows, you're the only reason as to why I can keep doing this. So I cannot thank you all enough. If you want to come to interstate shows, that obviously, it's not even helping me. Like, I'd love to see you there because I think you'll actually really enjoy the show. But also helps me out a lot. If you like the videos, come support the show. I've got Sydney coming up June 2nd, Brisbane June 3rd. Sydney's going to sell out. It's already over. There's only about 20-something seats left. There's like 22 seats left or something for Sydney. So, actually, I didn't check that. There's probably less now. I haven't checked it for a few days. But when I last checked, there was literally like 20 seats left. So, please go book for Sydney this week or you might miss out. So, I'm only doing one show there. One night only in every city. Perth, then Adelaide. Can you please buy tickets to Adelaide, okay? Even if you don't even like my shit, but you like it enough to listen to my podcast, just come. Alright, it's going to be a fun night. So yeah, that's it. That's what I had to talk about. I forget it was anything. Oh yeah, send in your fun facts. Keep sending in your questions. We're going to do a new podcast topic next week. In the meantime, just keep living your life. I'll keep getting triggered by white boy shit, and then I'll rant about it next week. So, yeah, thanks to all your messages during the week and all your support. Also, I've got to say, t-shirts and merch and shit. If you want a t-shirt, please pre-order it, because I've already had to order more, and I genuinely don't know how many I need now. Anyway, so if you want a t-shirt, you don't owe me shirt, order it with the show ticket. I'll be only selling the leftovers after the tour, and I'll be honest, I don't know how many leftovers there will be. I'm looking at the box now, and the pre-orders are stacked to the brim of the box, and that's only for like Sydney and Brisbane. So yeah, get on that shit because it's selling quick. Anyway, that's enough plugging. Enjoy your week. I'd love to hear your questions. Send in your fun facts. If you've got any other ways to say memoirs of a white guy, please inform me because I'm running out. Have a good one, guys. See you next week.